Getting an entry into the Rolex Fastnet race has become almost as competitive as the race itself. So if you're in already, well done. If you're not, the clock is counting down and registration for the final classes closes in April.
This year will be the 50th race, a milestone for an event that is steeped in history. Jolly Breeze won the first race in 1925. At a dinner shortly afterwards, the Ocean Racing Club was formed. Today, the Fastnet fleet is 500 boats. The record for the original course is 1 day, 4 hours and 2 minutes, set by Maxi Edmond de Rothschild in 2021. For the monohulls, the record set in 2011 by the VO70 Abu Dhabi still stands at 1 day, 18 hours and 38 minutes. As in 2021, the race now finishes in Cherbourg and attracts the world's biggest and best, along with a huge fleet of amateur sailors, to make the Rolex Fastnet race the biggest offshore race in the world.
If 600 miles is your thing, the Hellenic Offshore Racing Club will be running the third edition of the Aegean 600 in July.
The event has grown rapidly in popularity. On the face of it, it's easy to see why. A 600-mile course that takes the fleet through some stunning scenery, along with the start that says it all, with a line set beneath the 2,500-year-old Temple of Poseidon. The intricate course that threads its way around the islands of the South Aegean Sea makes this a tactically complex race on the navigation front as well. And then there's reading the weather. While the 15 to 20 knot northerly Meltemi is a regular feature, experienced crews know not to take it for granted. Little surprise then that this event has grown so quickly. The race is open to monohulls and multi-hulls, fully crewed and short-handed, and the record? 2 days and 15 hours for the monohulls and 10 hours quicker in the multi-hull class.
Meanwhile, looking further ahead to 2024 and further north where the summer sun barely sets, the Royal Ocean Racing Club will be running the Roschier Baltic Sea Race for the second time.
Last year, the inaugural 635-mile race started from Helsinki in Finland and took the fleet around the Swedish island of Gotland and back. Interestingly, the lack of tide in the Baltic helped to keep the tactical options open on the racecourse. This proved to be especially true when the fleet got close to land at some of the key stages of the race. As a result, the pressure remained until the end. The front of the fleet provided a good example where the VO65 Amber Sail and the VO70s I Love Poland and Bullhound locked horns throughout the race, before the TP52 Outsider piled on the pressure even further in the closing stages. In the end, I Love Poland won by just 700 metres over the TP52. 600 miles separated by 700 metres. Some would say that's just how it should be.
If the regatta format is more your thing, Italy's Tre Golfi Sailing Week offers a mix of inshore and offshore racing.
The event, which is now in its 68th year, begins with an offshore tour of the Bay of Naples. The race will start on the 12th of May. The multi-hulls have the longest course at 205 miles, while for the ORC and IRC monohulls the course is 155 miles, and for the classics it's 80 miles. After that, having started the week in Naples, the fleet relocates to Sorrento for the inshore series. This runs for the next 4 days. The series also includes a new Corinthian division where 80% or more of the crew will need to be Group 1 amateurs. Plus, the Sorrento stage of the week is the ORC Mediterranean Championship, which is also a qualifier for the Italian National Offshore Championships. All in all, plenty for teams to get stuck into.
Meanwhile, the longest running regatta in the world that is fast approaching its 200th birthday has been refining a modern way of conducting racing and communicating with its sailors.
Last year, Cows Week launched the latest version of its app. Originally developed in 2018, the bespoke app is integrated with the entry system, modernising and improving the backroom operations. Communicating with 600 boats across 40 different classes was made much more effective too. This benefits both sides, as sailors are able to receive direct communications for their class from courses to start locations and timings. Last year, despite some tricky weather at times, all 37 classes had a start on every day. According to the organisers, without the ability to communicate through the app, this would not have been possible. With a total of around 300 courses and 4,000 finish times logged through the week, along with a total of 96,000 miles sailed by the combined fleet, it's easy to see why.
There is a popular misconception that modern cruising cats can't sail upwind in 25 to 30 knots of wind. Try telling that to multi-hull builders Outremer, or indeed their clients.
For 37 years, the French builders have staked their reputation on cruising cats that perform, and it's a strategy that has paid off. The Outremer 55 won European Yacht of the Year 2022, and in the spring they'll launch their latest addition to the range, the Outremer 52, a cat that refines an already successful formula with improved visibility, the capacity for bigger payloads and a greater feeling of space throughout. The 52 has some innovative details too, such as the canting steering pedestals that allow the steering system to be moved from inboard, within the protection of the cockpit, to outboard. But the best validation must surely be that while 80 of the 55s have been sold since 2021, over 60 of the 52s have been sold since they announced it, and before the first boat had even been launched.
It's easy to take sail handling and furling systems for granted. After all, the concept has been around for a long time and has transformed the way we sail. Bigger boats, higher loads and fewer crew.
But for hardware manufacturers Reckmann, the development continues. From the outside, it's often difficult to see what's changed and why their equipment is so highly regarded. But, as is often the case, the facts speak for themselves. Their hydraulic cylinders are built to work up to 440 bar, whereas their competitors set 350 bar as the maximum pressure. Reckmann have developed their own electric pumps, specifically for their cylinders and drives that include manual backups. Interestingly, while Reckmann supply their own fully integrated systems and spar packages, they also supply furling systems to a range of leading spar manufacturers. And aside from their reputation for worldwide service, that alone speaks volumes.
In the mainstream sailing world, composite rigging still feels pretty advanced. For many, especially those outside the Grand Prix racing world, the idea of having non-metallic rigging is still a big step. Yet for smart rigging, the range of applications is broader than ever.
So while the QuantFX Lake Foiler might illustrate perfectly where we think this type of rigging is used primarily, the other end of smart rigging's world sees composite rigging being used on major commercial applications, such as Big Lift Shipping's MV Happy Sky and its Superfly jib. Some uses are well out of sight, such as the stays used for anchoring floating offshore wind farms. But back in our world and in between the extremes, carbon, aramid and PBO stays are being used across the sport, from dinghies to cruising cats and super yachts. And here there's a reason it feels advanced. Because it is.